Now, the brilliant and late actress and, of course, star of one of the most enduring TV shows on television around the world, Angela Lansbury, shared this gem with me, and I really wanted to share it with you because it does show a different perspective on what some people might say was a tragic story and a tragic ending. As ever, let me explain. Morning, lovely to see you today, and as ever, thank you so much for taking the time out to join me. I know it's nice to have your company. As ever, can I just say, by the way, I wanted to ask this question, because somebody was talking about this the other day in the office, and I thought, yeah, does this still exist? Did you have a pen friend? And do you still have? And more importantly, do you know anybody that has done it recently? Because I was sort of thinking this, you know what it's like when you're on the bus, and I thought, yeah, I suppose now it will be digitally, wouldn't it? You wouldn't write letters, which is a shame because it's far more exciting, isn't it, getting a letter, that sort of stuff. But now when you think about it, you just wouldn't necessarily have that, would you? So did you have a pen friend? And are you still in touch now, or did it sort of fade out, and how did it become that sort of stuff? You know, I'd love to genuinely know. I mean, yeah, different times, isn't it? Different worlds. Now, one lady that I was lucky enough to meet in a different world, of course, was the brilliant Angela Lansbury. I loved her. I thought she was genius, absolutely. A lot of people, of course, only know her for things like Murder, She Wrote, but she was much more than that. Disney, MGM star, very much her own woman, set up a production company, you know, did lots of many different stuff without having to have banners and things waved around her. She was just simply very, very clever. What I liked about Angela was I met her sadly on a very last visit over here to London, where she turned up at the Gielgud Theatre, where her mother had originally appeared, many years ago. And this was why it's very much a bit of a homecoming for her. She was quite teary about that, actually. And she was starring in a brand new production of Blithe Spirit. Now, after the press call and everything, we ended up having to sit down, wonderful long chat, and I will be forever grateful for that because she was so kind, so caring, and even if she was a little bit tired, she didn't really care. We were just having a gossip over a cup of tea, let me tell you. She was lovely, you know, absolutely. Now, what's interesting about this particular story is when you look at the stories of one of her friends, the MGM fellow star Judy Garland, there's always the tragedy attached to things like that. And even when you watch that movie with Renée Zellweger, it comes across as a woman who's desperate, out of touch, that sort of stuff. Now, according to Angela, that really wasn't the case in the very last year of her life. Things were difficult, but they were always difficult, as she said with Judy Garland. Judy was her own worst enemy, picked the wrong men, trusted the wrong people, but had a golden heart at the very centre of it. You know, she just said she was just too trusting of people. Now, cast your mind back to 1969 as Judy was popping up in the Talk of the Town review for the impresario Bernard Delfont, right? Now, in the movie, he's sort of portrayed as sort of semi-friendly, but not friendly. I met Bernard Delfont myself, you know, tough negotiator, but again, a gentleman at heart, no two ways about that. But what emerged listening back to this particular chat was fascinating because also in London at that time was none other than Ginger Rogers, about to open up in Mame, the Theatre Royal Drury Lane. Great success for Ginger. But what was interesting was that Bernard, who was also putting that show on, had actually reached out to Judy saying, would she be interested? Judy flatly turned it down because there was no way she could do, 8 performances or 6 performances a week. But Bernard, being very kind and also a shrewd businessman, said, well, look, how about the occasional appearance, maybe just doing the, this sort of final sort of song of the show, that type of thing. Now, this kind of appealed to Judy because she'd never really done a musical on stage and she was looking for new avenues. He was trying his very best, of course, to make sure he could get big box office. He had a big name attached, and with Ginger apparently about to depart the show, he wasn't quite sure who he was going to pick in that reflection. But what Angela said was that he really did go above and beyond trying to make it work for her. And she realised this, and they had quite a few meetings. And apparently, according to Bernard, he was very sad when he went along to her final London home, a Mews cottage, just off the King's Road. He said she was very much a woman who was down and out and, looking for a bit of luck. This is the great Judy Garland, remember. But he did also point out, according to Angela, that once again, she'd got herself hooked up with a very difficult person called Mickey Deems, who was pushing hard for money, had no idea how the show business world worked, but, Judy believed in him. Wrongly, again, some people might suggest. So what could have been a different ending to the Judy Garland story was the fact that even if she just did the occasional one show a week, maybe two shows a week, people still wanted to actually hire and use Judy's unique talent. And as Angela said, that meant a lot to her, even though things didn't necessarily come off and work out for the best. It's lovely to be able to share these stories with you because, as I say, it throws a whole different light onto how people paint, Judy as a tragic figure. And having interviewed at length her daughter, Lorna Luft, she too told me that this wasn't really the story, but it suits the narrative better. Now, isn't that a more fitting ending to a true Hollywood legend? Neil Sean in the very heart of London.